Hello, we are midway through January, basically, and we've just had a full moon, during which I got to play with fire, which was really fun. For pretty much all of my 20s, I would witness people playing like fire poi or doing other like circus fire things and thought, gee, I want to do that someday, but I don't know how I would even begin to learn. And it just so happened that I made friends with someone who plays with fire, and I got invited to something called a fire jam. And at this fire jam, there were all sorts of toys that had wicks on them and fire involved. So I got to dance with fire with like something called a bug, which was like a singular wick on a chain that, well, it's like two chains between your hands. You like slide them on your middle finger there, and then you just kind of like play around with them, and the chains are retractable. So yeah, it's fun, but very entry level. And then I upgraded to using a staff with like fire on either end, and that was really fun. And maybe at some point I will actually do fire poi, but I think I should probably start practicing just regular poi first. So that happened during just the day before the full moon, I think, Saturday. Also, by the way, I am using this microphone as sort of a test because the other microphone that I had been using for these videos, where I put it off to the side so you don't see it, I was getting a lot of room sound, and so whenever I like turned up the volume on the vocals, I would get a lot of like ambient noise going on. So I thought maybe if I just have a little microphone and put a little sponge on it, that maybe I can just hold that up to my mouth, and that would be ideal. We'll see. I'm not totally convinced on it yet, but it's an experiment. We'll see if you can hear me better. We'll see if this is fun. And so I did the fire jam, and that was also a day that I had like a lot of things that I did. I went and explored the Barbican because that was where I was donating some extra things that I don't want anymore. And then after that, I went to the original headquarters of the Golden Dawn Temple, which is no longer a temple, and it's debatable as to whether or not you would count it as an actual temple. But it's where they gathered in the beginning, the original group of occultists in London in like the 70s. I think it was the 70s. And Aleister Crowley, went in with his mistress with daggers and uttering all sorts of spell casting enchantment things to try and take over the organization, and he failed to do so. So then he just kind of did his own spin-off thing. And then the Golden Dawn evolved into other organizations, and I don't know where the other headquarters are, or where the current one is. So this was the closest I could get without trying to join the organization myself. So that was really cool. It's now currently a cafe. It's called George's Cafe. I hung out with George. He made me some food. It was very nice. I went downstairs to use the toilets, and it was definitely weird occult vibes down there. I can definitely see that being like the place for spell casting, even though it didn't like, it didn't have occult symbols anywhere or anything like that. Just the vibes of that basement was really but maybe that was all in my head, who knows. Maybe I just wanted to feel that way. Regardless, it was a fun experience. And then I went out to Neasden Temple in sort of northwest London with a friend of mine, and that was so gorgeous. It's an incredibly ornate, beautiful temple that was built in the 90s, very much in the style of other sort of like temples in India. Very ornate, somewhat small, but yeah, it was really beautiful. And then it just so happened that they were also making food and like serving it to anyone who was there. So we also got to have a lovely like Indian dinner in the temple, which was, well, not in the temple itself, but there's like a building next to the temple where they do other sorts of Like it looked like a conference space, and slash like I think there was like a gym or some, so it had like high school gym vibes where we were eating. But it was really nice, very wholesome. And we got to like, watch the full moon from, there was like a window at near the ceiling that I could see the full moon through while having dinner. It was just really beautiful. And then I went to the fire jam afterwards. So that was all just Saturday. And other than that, I had an article that I was like working on, so I was just like intensely looking through, like researching trans rights in Romania, which is actually really fascinating because through refusing to really acknowledge or embrace trans rights, they've somehow managed to bring in more trans rights across the EU. So that was interesting to learn about and to write about. And other than that, I've been meeting up with friends that I hadn't seen in a little while that I wanted to see before I left. And because I'm leaving next week, at the end of next week, I will be in Portugal. So not this weekend, but the next weekend, I will be in Porto, Portugal. I'm going to have some port, because when in port, oh. And it's, I'm really excited. I'm going to do some workaway stuff with like, doing a lot of nice physical labor out in the woods, and living in nature, doing a nice camp out. I'm so excited. And then I'm going to go to the Canary Islands, which I've always, people are always like, you should go to the Canary Islands. It's lovely. It's wonderful. And now I'm actually going to go. So that's really cool. And then I'll have like a road trip up through Spain and then to Ireland. So it's going to be a very exciting time in the next few months. And I'm very excited to continue doing videos through that. I haven't quite decided what sort of setup to do. So hence the testing this out. Because this is a much smaller microphone than the other one that I was using. So if this works, then this might be ideal. And you might just get, I might just turn this into like a full-on like news show, where I'm like holding this up as if I'm a news anchor out on location. Yeah, and the book that I've been working on, I've been editing steadily. I've added some extra little moments in the plot that I think really add some tenderness and excitement to the overall story. So I've been really happy with how I've been editing in the last few weeks, and I only have like 8 more chapters to go through and edit, which is really not that much. I'm in the last third of editing, so that's really exciting. I could probably do that like fairly quickly. So yeah, it's been an action-packed time. I've been doing lots of fun stuff, and I'm going to do way more fun stuff soon. So I'm very excited. I hope that you're doing well. So yeah, thanks for checking in, and I'll check in with you again next week. Bye.